I am the CRM Ninja, and on today's episode of the Oops Factor, I'm delighted to have Foyin Olajide-Bello. I think I got that right?
Yes, you did. Thank you so much, UI.
Brilliant. Welcome to the show, Foyin.
It's great to be here. Really excited about it and looking forward to the questions you have for me today.
I've got no idea what questions. Well, actually, I do know what I'm going to start with, right? People who are watching this are wondering, why do I have the background that I do, right? Animated movies. But I understand you're really into animated movies, right?
Yes, I am. And basically, I have 3 children under 11. So I've developed a natural affinity for it from the kids. I enjoy spending time watching animated movies with them.
Wow. I also have 3. Well, actually, I have 3 under 8. And they do like watching stuff. I can't say I'm into everything that they watch, but there's there. So did you get into the Disney and Pixar and whatever other animated movies there are out there because of the children, or did you start beforehand and when the children came, it just was a convenient reason to then watch?
Honestly, it's been there before them, right? I've always enjoyed, I've always been a big fan of Disney, right from when everything was 2D. And also it kind of just complemented with the children coming along. So yeah.
I hear. So if I had to ask you, now this may be a simple answer, this may be a difficult one. What are your top 3 animated movies? That your top 3, not your kids' top 3, what they may decide to watch, right? My daughter went through a phase where she had to watch Elsa or whatever it was called, time and time again. Frozen, that was it. Yeah. See, and she watched it, I think, about 20 times in the space of 3 days, right? So not your children's top 3. What are your top 3? If you could watch anything and what you would go to, what would your top 3 be?
Well, so that's the thing. I don't know if it's theirs or mine now because they found a way to kind of bring me onto their side. So Encanto is a really good one that we kind of all like a lot, and we're kind of singing the songs in the house and all. So Encanto is definitely one. I like Boss Baby, for a very strange reason. I really don't know, despite the fact that my kids are starting to grow out of it, but I seem to still like Boss Baby a lot because I find it very hilarious. And I also like so what will be my next? I like Frozen. I like Frozen so very much.
I hope I didn't just put that in your mind by talking about it.
No, I don't think so.
You should know, by the way, that there is Frozen on Ice or Frozen musical or something here in London. So if you ever come over to London, you should go and take a look at that.
Nice. Oh, I should. I'll make a note of that.
I don't get any commission, by the way, for recommending it, just for the purposes of people watching this. So I don't get any commission at all for, saying the show, but I am going to be taking at some point my 7-year-old to it. And she's very much looking forward to the show. So I'm told it's excellent. So if you're ever here in London, definitely should go check it out.
I will. Thank you so much.
No problem. So going from animated movies to the Oops Factor, what do you have to share with us?
Yes. So starting out my my Power Apps journey, and even a couple of things that have gone wrong, which I don't never expected, especially when early days when you're just trying to learn and figure it out. So one of the examples is locking myself out of my SharePoint list, where when you're trying to adjust the permissions and you just figure out that, my Power Apps I'm not able to connect to my SharePoint list. Okay, what's going on? And then I discovered that I'm locked out. So you need permission to access this site. And I'm like, I'm the admin of the site. Why don't I have permissions to access?
Hold on. This was your own SharePoint site and you managed to lock yourself out of it?
Yes. So when
great.
You're moving permissions and all that, so I had to get someone else who was an admin to add me back to the site. So since then, whenever I'm talking about SharePoint permission, I say, be careful, don't lock yourself out.
Always make sure that there's another admin.
Yes. Yes, you definitely don't want to be the only one with admin rights on your SharePoint site.
Yeah.
Otherwise, when you're locked out, it's it's a serious thing. I don't know if there's been any improvements on Microsoft side to prevent this, but it's something that happened in other versions of SharePoint Online, where you could actually look yourself out with the
Wow.
permissions. Yes, yes. And another one I'll share with you is editing the Power Apps. So when you're using your solutions and you move from one environment to the other environment. So I had successfully moved my Power Apps from dev to test. And then I needed to make a change. And I didn't know I was on test, not dev. So, so I started to edit the application that was in test. And then I discovered that, oh no, I'm actually not in dev. I'm in test, and I've started to edit the application.
Were you
So what
using,
happened?
out of curiosity, it doesn't
Yes.
actually specifically matter for Canvas apps, but were you using managed solutions?
Yes, I was.
Okay.
Yes, I was using managed solutions, which wasn't like at that time. I was like, oh, so even if my solution is managed, I can still edit the app. I didn't know that. So because I thought, with managed solutions now, this is not Dataverse, right? This is not the table isn't Dataverse. So I'd assume that once it's managed, everything is like completely locked. But
So
that's not exactly.
it's one of the semi well-known secrets, I'll say, because until you know it, you don't know it, of course, but it's not hidden away, which is that Canvas apps, regardless of what the data source is, obviously exist in database, you can move them in the managed solution, but you can still edit them even in that managed solution.
So that was the first time I discovered that I could actually do that. But what then happened was it broke I would call it the connection, basically. So when I then made changes, the same changes in test in the dev environment, and then I saved and exported because it was a manual transition. So I exported and imported to the test environment. The changes didn't update. So it was because I had kind of tampered with the app in test. So that kind of broke it. So really messy. I had to, every time I wanted to move a new version, I had to take down the old version in test and then put in the new solution in test rather than the normal way we would do it, like just put in the new solution and it recognizes it and then just update and it updates. So that's something to be careful of. Like managed solutions, yes, but in Canvas app, you can still edit the application. So
how long did it take you to realize that you were editing it directly in test rather than dev?
It took me maybe 10 minutes. I'd done a couple of changes, maybe about four updates on it. And then I was like, okay, I want to save. And I look up and I'm like, what? What am I doing here? So it's always important to keep your eyes on the environment and be sure you're in the right place whenever you want to make edits. So that was like
that is that is very true. You can now actually assign different banners to the environments, I believe. So within a model-driven app, you can, of course, change the color of the menu bar, but I think you can actually change now the header in the admin center for different environments.
Also, what would that look like? Like because you already named it. So at the top right, you have environments, then you can see if you're in dev or test or so what's the
so if you're in Studio, if you're in Power Apps Studio, for instance, you don't see the name of the environment.
Oh, okay.
You don't have the environment picker that's there. I mean, I always drill into people when I'm introducing them to Power Platform or talking about their building stuff. I was going to say, make sure first step, you load out, make.powerapps.com, make sure you've selected the right environment, go to your environment picker, check it's there, check it's selected correctly. But if you're in Studio already, you've gone to edit something, you've just gone in quickly, it doesn't tell you. And the URL doesn't tell you either.
No, it doesn't. Very true. I'm looking at it right now. I don't see anything in the URL that says dev or something, or question mark dev or question mark test. So
So something
Maybe
we do
it's
is in terms of nakers, we actually turn around and say, when in the dev environment, just put a variable in with a little banner somewhere. And it's per environment, when you're in dev, it will then show that it's dev within the app itself. But if I think you can now, as I said, it's some new functionality. I need to go back and take a look at it. But I think you can actually change the banner overall for the environment.
okay.
So it's theming and such. So yeah, it could be something to
Yeah,
be able to
yeah,
distinguish.
yeah. That would be really helpful. Yes, so that was like kind of one of my oops factors, and then it just gave that ripple effect where the app wasn't transitioning as it should across the environments. So let's just be careful, be sure where you're editing on before you start to make your edits.
Always very, very important. What other things have you come across in your journey that's tripped you up?
Some other interesting things is like so when I started out also, I didn't know much about like DLP and all of that. So I was just very excited about the Power Platform, and I just started using it, and later discovered the kind of risks that you have if you don't set up DLP in your environment. Like people can literally lift anything and move it anywhere. So I was like, what? Okay, nobody did anything. So that was good news. But I quickly had to just put a DLP in place and just lock as much as possible before anyone started to ship out data from the environment. So I mean, once you have Power, in fact, once you have Office 365, you should immediately start to think about setting up a default policy across your tenants for Power Platform to just lock things. And then you can start to unlock as the need arises. But there really shouldn't be any tenants without DLP, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, there are two ways of approaching it. There are the organizations which will lock everything down and allow only the permitted stuff. So they blacklist everything and just whitelist items. Alternatively, there are ones who will just blacklist certain things that they don't want at all. So when I talk to people about the concept of center of excellence, I say, imagine if you had a Canvas app and it's connecting to your financial system. So it's got your payroll information and it can connect to Twitter. Somebody could create an app that publishes your employee salaries on Twitter. I haven't yet come across a company that thinks it's a good idea. Everybody goes and says, oh, no, we don't want that. Don't want salaries with people's names on social media. No. So it's stuff like that. It's, how do you approach it?
Yes. That's really, really important. And
but
also
DLP
the
policies
impact
are interesting though.
Sorry?
DLP policies are interesting because if you modify a DLP policy, it takes effect immediately.
Yes, it does.
And I may have been in a situation as a client whereby, not me, right? I want to be very clear about this. This was not me, but the client was deciding to play around with DLP and managed to bring down their production system.
Oh dear.
Because they didn't know all the connectors that were being used. And they were going through the list of, at that point, I think it was about 500 connectors or so. And they thought, oh, we're just going to block all the ones we don't recognize. They may have been using one of those. In fact, they were actually using one of those in one of their production applications, which of course the production application will not then run because the connector was blocked. Yeah. Fun times.
Hopefully it didn't cause too much disruption before it was discovered.
Well, this was a question partially of the right hand and the left hand not knowing what each other was doing, because they called us, we had built the app, and they called us and went, your app stopped working, and this and that, and started accusing us of fiddling with it. And we said, well, what's the problem? They said, it's not working. So, you start troubleshooting, and they go, okay, right, we want screenshots. What's the replication? And once we saw the errors that were coming up, we went and said, have you been playing around with DLP policies by any chance? Went, no, not us. And it was like, okay, who has access to DLP policies? And once we got that, and we, obviously priority one, because this was their main production app, was them, and we found out that somebody had indeed created a policy with and blocked certain connectors.
Oh wow. Well, Well, that's the good part of the DLP policy too. It takes effect immediately across the tenant. So it's good, yes.
So
yes.
you are obviously, well, obviously to me, you are known as somebody who people follow and connect with in terms of getting into the technology. And I know you speak at various events and obviously, you're out there on social media. What would your advice be to people who are looking to get into the Power Platform?
Well, my first advice is always get connected to the community, right? Because in the community, you would find mentors, you would find friends, you would find a lot of guidance about how to get started on your journey. This is how, like you would basically write off and leverage everyone's experience in the community. So that was actually what really helped me, because when I started back then, I was coming from core infrastructure, so I didn't know a lot. And then I kind of met with Donna and she threw me out on Twitter to say, oh, I met this fantastic lady who's just getting started with Power Apps. And then I literally had, 30 followers on Twitter. I was hardly ever on Twitter. I just had an account. So I just said, oh, what's going on? I have so many likes and followers. What's happening here? And I discovered that she had sent out a tweet and all, of course, Power Platform community is one that is full of love. So it was a lot of warmth and welcome and all. So, and that's kind of really helped my learning journey, having that support from the community. So my advice is always get connected to the community. We have so many user groups, everywhere. So there are always people to help and support you. And just throw out a tweet, hashtag Power Addicts, you get loads and loads of responses.
It's a great hashtag.
Yes. So once you get connected to the community, you just take it on from there.
Okay. So obviously community is a big thing, and I fully agree with that. What else would you suggest?
What else? Yes, then Microsoft Learn is also a very, very great place to get started.
Okay.
Because they kind of have their content in a structured way, and it paces you right from where you are. So if you can filter the content. So you can say, oh, I'm a beginner, I want to learn Power Apps or Power Automate and all. And then you actually see the content, and then you can just go step by step. And after every, 15 minutes read, you get a little test that kind of ensures that you remember what you've been reading. So that's really good about Microsoft Learn. And then at the end of the day, and you also end points, so you kind of feel a sense of achievement as you go along your learning journey. So Microsoft Learn is really good.
You know that originally when Microsoft Learn came out, you didn't get any points, and then they gamified it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So when you take the assessments at the end of each, leave aside the unlocking the achievements, if you take a look at the top right of your screen, you'll see XP. You'll see a level and a number.
Yes.
And you gain points for every correct answer. Now, obviously, you can do it again. If you get the answer correct the first time, you gain a certain amount of points. If you get it correct the second time, you gain half the amount of points.
Oh.
I know people who use it as leaderboards to show just how many Microsoft Learn modules they've gone through.
It's really nice.
They gamified it a little bit, yes.
Yes. And it makes the content engaging. Like you just see the point and you're like, wow, yes, I have 500 more points. So it's really good. So Microsoft Learn is very good because it's structured. Then you can basically start out with trying to build an app. And we have amazing members of the community who have beautiful videos out there, like EY, like April, Shenyong, Razia, Daniel, so many of them out there. You can watch their videos and kind of learn as you go along to practically. But the Microsoft Learn is good because you understand the basics, of Power Apps, what it's trying to do, what it helps you to do, and all. So you're not just trying to start creating the applications without having a good foundation to layer that on. So that's kind of...
It's good to know what things do before you start using them, right?
Yes, it is. Otherwise, as you go along, you start to discover gaps, and then you try to go back to fill the gaps. So, which is kind of how I learned. I learned in a very ad hoc way because I just started building the application. So it's coming from an InfoPath world. So I just said, oh, Power Ups is fantastic. It looks a lot better than InfoPart. I want to use this tool. And I just started building and building. I said, oh, how do I do this? And then I go find the answer and then come back. So
Yeah.
my learning wasn't very structured. But if I was to go back now, I would say, okay, start with Microsoft Learn, finish the modules, understand the foundation and everything, and then go and start building the apps. But anyway, I guess we all have different learning journeys. So.
That is true. That is true. But I definitely agree with you. Microsoft Learn is an amazing resource that's out there and gotten a lot better over the years.
Yes, it has. And then once you feel comfortable, you can go for the PL 900 and try the fundamental exams.
Certifications. Yes, we all love those.
We do. We do.
Yes. I have one or two under my belt. I never really got certified until about 3 years ago.
Oh, that was obviously your choice. I'm sure of that.
I got certified so I started off with CRM 3.0 and then went on shortly onto 4.0. So back in the day, I had to get certified for something. But that's well over a decade ago. And I just didn't do any certifications. Then I attended a user group session and a user group meetup by Julian Sharp, who basically went, I challenge you to get certified. I sort of went, this guy looks awesome. I'm going to try it. And I got a little hooked on certification. I have nowhere near his number of certifications, but I've definitely done quite a few over time.
Yeah, Julian is great. He's fantastic with his study groups.
Yes.
And he has loads of certifications too.
He does indeed. Well, fine. Thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your background and experience. It's really appreciated.
You're most welcome. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm delighted to be a part of the show and also sharing some of my experiences, which I'm sure will be beneficial to a couple of people.
Definitely. Viewers, we hope that you've enjoyed the episode. Feel free to check out the rest of the Oops Factor playlist, subscribe to the channel, and take a look at the blog. And if you might like to come on, hit the link, which is somewhere in the description below, put in your details, and I'd love to have you on the show. But above all, have an amazing day.